I'm Sierra, the astounding actress.
I'm Sarah G, the cultural connoisseur.
I'm Frankie Ashen, the portentous professor, and this is Sunkissed Pod,
the podcast that goes there.
Sunkissed Pod is the creative space where we talk about popular media, self-exploration, and the world around us.
Come sit at our table and kiki with the girls and ladies.
I wanted to speak about friendship because of the psychotherapist called Esther Perel, and I've been listening to one of her podcasts, Where Should We Begin?, which is basically her taking couples anonymously and going having a therapy session with them. And sometimes it's a couple therapist sessions, sometimes it's just one, but this particular episode was centered around these two South Asian men who were childhood friends for years. And I really enjoyed that episode, and it got me thinking a lot about friendship and how friendship is a pillar of our lives and how important it is, right? So, one thing I want to say, like, what is friendship for, right? Like, what role does friendship play in our lives? In my head, I think friendship is based off community, right? And it's an important part of community. It's an important way to bridge like human connection. It makes your life a lot fuller and colorful when you meet people that you have similar interests to, that you can call and depend on. So I'm just like wondering for you guys, like, what is friendship for in your lives?
I mean, friendships are definitely people that you can rely on. Got your back. They keep it real with you. They give their time and their space and their energy to help you in any way, shape, or form. And to expand on keeping it real, it's like if they see that maybe something you're doing isn't correct, or maybe you're going to handle a situation that could be handled a lot easier and you're making it difficult. You have a friend that's like, hey, let's try to handle it this way, but they approach you with kindness and concern and they listen. And I think that's a huge part of being friends with somebody, is that you listen to them, you understand them. That's my definition.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's one of those, like, a great example of my definition, which I think includes a lot of vulnerability, in the sense that, like, you don't grow in comfort or in comfortable conditions. You grow in discomfort, and being able to, like, stretch up against your chrysalis and whatever in order to be the butterfly, like, it's uncomfortable, that transformation. And I think friendship is an investment in recognizing that transformation, and that you're going to change. You're going to have moments of conflict that challenge you and turn you into a version of yourself that is more, like, involved and ready to listen, that sort of thing. I think also there's this thing that I just recently heard of, and I don't remember where. That's the worst part, but we will find it along the way for this recording. I think sometimes when you're in romantic relationships, you, like, don't give up, but you, like, change a certain part of your identity, or maybe, like, open up for more in your definition of who you are, and if that and the fact that includes another person. Platonic relationships that can still have that same depth and meaning, I don't think there's like a change in identity of, like, oh, that's, you know, someone's boyfriend, someone's girlfriend. That's like, oh, that's Frankie who's friends with Daryl. It's just like something where I've had my own, like, identity existential crises while in relationships, and that is not the same of my friendships. So what does that mean?
I think that's very interesting to say. Like, so essentially what you're saying is that in romantic relationships, maybe you have to merge your identity with another person, as opposed with a friendship, you still get to be like an independent person, right? It's not like you're kind of merging your lives or merging your, like, that. You're not merging into this person or becoming one with this person. You're doing life alongside that person.
I think that's a great way of putting it, because it's not like I think that as a universal truth about, like, those relationships. I think it's like a social truth, a social expectation and stereotype that is really all encompassing, that it's like, oh, you're supposed to merge your identities, or, like, all that stuff. And friendships are more individualistic. of a relationship.
Now, I feel like the media has kind of really shaped our perception of what friendship is and what friendship looks like. And I'm interested in like what piece of media, whether it was a book you read or a movie you saw or a TV show you watched, like what piece of media taught you about friendship or you felt like was a great representation of friendship?
I'm just gonna have to go with one of my favorites, Princess and the Frog. One of my favorite Disney movies. I stand by it. If you're not familiar with it, basically it's a young black girl who's trying to basically save up money to open her own restaurant, and unfortunately she gets disrespected and dogged and basically told that she wouldn't be able to handle such a massive responsibility, and it's this whole thing. But she has a friend named Charlotte, Lottie is what she calls her, who pretty much is like gang when it comes to Tiana. Like, she hooks her up like during the ball. Tiana, after she finds out she's not getting the restaurant, even though she saved up all this money, you know, Charlotte sees her and she's all distraught, and she tries to get a hold of the guy, like by holding his tail, because it's like a costume party, and she's pulling on his tail and he goes away and she goes flying and lands on the table and all her beignets go everywhere, and Charlotte is like, you know, my man is here, whatever, and then she like gets out of that mode and immediately is like, oh my god, my friend is in danger, and he pulls away and she goes flying and she hits the table and all the beignets that she made and everything gets all over her. And Charlotte, who's more worried about, you know, her man is here, is like immediately snaps out of, you know, my man is here to, oh my gosh, my friend is in pain, she's in danger. And so she takes her up to her room and she gives her this beautiful blue dress, and it's just a lovely scene because she helps her with her makeup, and you know, talks about how when they were little girls, they dreamed about nights like this. And even though Tiana's still sad because she got rejected with the whole restaurant thing, it's still a nice moment to see, because throughout the movie, even though there's only a few scenes of them being friends, you can see them being friends, the moments that they are on screen together, you can really tell that Charlotte really cares about Tiana. And one of the things people say is like, well, why didn't Charlotte give Tiana money? Why didn't she, you know, step in? And it's like, because I feel if they were to expand on it, Tiana wanted to work hard for herself. She wanted to do it for her. She didn't want her friend to have to step in, and that would be expected, right? You have a rich friend, and that's something that's also important, is that Tiana doesn't have a lot of money. You know, Tiana's mother works for Charlotte's father, a seamstress.
Yeah, it's also interracial friendship too.
Yeah, it's
layers.
It's an interracial friendship.
Layers too.
But Charlotte treats her like this is my sister, this is my best friend, you know. So I love that friendship. I love the dynamic. And even towards the end, Charlotte is team Tiana, you know. She ends up getting the prince, and it's this whole thing, and she's like, well, waited this long, I'm just gonna wait till the next guy that comes along, you know. She's very supportive. So I think that's like, oh, you know, and whatever Tiana's dream is, she's right there, like, I got you.
So what lessons do you feel you pulled for that piece of media about friendship? Like if you were to narrow it down.
Interestingly enough, I think I would say just being supportive, you know, just being a pillar. You may not always have to be hands-on in a friendship. Sometimes the support is just you being there. Sometimes, like, if you're upset and you just need to cry and your friend's like, listen, I'm here. If you want to cry, just cry. I'll just sit here. I don't even have to talk. Like, I think that type of thing, that type of friendship is important.
It also sounds like a little bit like what I'm gathering is sometimes being solution based is not the goal of being like a friend that's there, or a friend that is listening for real and wanting to help you. Being the savior is not friendship. That's a different sort of relationship with power dynamics that, you know, aren't what I think of when I think of a friendship or like a healthy friendship. So, you know, there's those racial and class-based layers of I can't accept this white girl's money. I mean, we're in Reconstruction. Like, I just got off of enslavement. Like, it's been 100 years. Like, there's no way.
Yes.
And it's not that deep for the Disney movie, but for the people watching it, it's like, I mean, she could never.
You know, Charlotte would be like, yeah, here you go, girl, I got you. But Tiana's like, no, absolutely not.
I like how you said that friendship isn't savior. Like, There shouldn't be like a savior complex in your friendship,
Yes.
and maybe there's something that should be like mutually. There gotta be like a sense of equity in the
Mhm.
friendship, right? Like we're both equals, or we see each other as like
Mhm.
I don't see you as
I
someone
like
who's
that.
better than me just because you have more money than me, or because
Mhm.
you have more resources than I do. Like for some reason, despite our different social economic backgrounds, despite
Mhm.
our racial backgrounds,
Mhm.
we still able to see each other as equals and
Right.
see value within each other. So I do like that. I mean, what about you, Frankie? Is there like a piece of media that you're like, oh, like I love watching these people be friends on screen? Or maybe was there something about friendship where you're like, this is a shitty ass dynamic. This is not a friendship or friend group I want to be a part of. Like what media kind of comes to mind for you?
I think of Sierra started us off with this interracial friendship. I'm thinking of Color of Friendship, and that was a movie we all were like, "Oh,
What
hey,
was Colors of Friendship?
hello, hello." We remember that. Where is it now? Why don't
Mhm.
Color of Friendship was a Disney movie. A white South African girl and a black American family find themselves in a difficult situation when the girl is sent to spend a term as an
Mhm.
exchange student with the family in America. So Miss the African girl is like, where's the apartheid?
Mhm.
This is so different. And I think it is like based on actual events. It is in the sense that like this was a classic trope in a world that
Mhm.
has in a world, our world, in our society, where people are living totally different lives across the globe in spiritual and psychological, emotional ways of like how their society is shaped. And I think this is a movie that like gave this childhood lesson that friendship means being there for each other in ways that challenge social expectations proudly, a sense of unapologeticism and a sense of bravery that I think is really important, I guess, as a black woman shaped person who's queer. Like my friendships need to look
Yeah.
like people who want to ride
Mhm.
for me, or else I'm like, why am I even hanging out? What do you want? You want to party with people who are like me. You want the perks of being with people like me, but you don't want to stand up during your family's Thanksgiving and
Mhm.
say something to racist Uncle Mark. Like you don't want to post about things that are important that you're seeing your fellow black person of color,
Mhm.
queer, disabled friends are posting about. You want to keep your timeline, movie quotes, and Pinterest boards, and that's do your thing. But I'm just like I feel like we have a social responsibility to be there for each other if we're gonna be friends.
Mhm.
When I think about like the piece of media for me, I guess I've always been like a girl group kind of girl. Cheetah Girls and even Sex in the City. Like I love the idea like four women or four young girls coming together. Each person has a unique personality, but they all blend so well together. And particularly with Cheetah Girls, like, they all had this set vision to become pop stars. And they all worked together to blend their voices. And you had Raven Simone, who was Gabriella, and she was like the lead singer and writer. And then you had Chanel, who was her best friend, the Latino feisty bestie, whose mom was a single mom. And then you had Dorinda, who was in foster care, and she presented as white. But one of my favorite lines in the movie was when she's like, "I don't know what I am," because
Mhm.
she didn't know who her parents were because she was in
Right.
foster care.
Right. Right.
And then you had Aqua, the feisty black woman from the South who just moved to New
Mhm.
York. And I thought that was kind of what I wanted in a friend group as a young kid. Like I wanted this like wholesome foursome that each had like different personalities and that we can like get together and use our
Mhm.
strengths to like create a super girl group. But I love the way these women navigated like through their conflicts with each other because again their personalities were so different, especially when they went to Spain and Ravens had to tell the girl, "Bitch, we gotta practice," and they were like, "But we want to hang out in Spain." And
Right.
then and then
Right.
and then they had to come to the train station in their pajamas
Mhm.
and serenade her in order for her to come back. But it's just like if they're not
Iconic.
I mean,
going to
that's what
come to
friendship's
the
about.
train
That's
station,
what friendship is about.
and like
Mhm.
I remember Chica had like these animal footsies on, right? Like if you're not
Yes.
coming to the train station in animal ass slippers to tell me you're sorry for not practicing
Mhm.
and finding a new best friend, yo,
Right.
I don't want it.
That's true.
I don't want it. But
Mm.
I really, really enjoyed the Cheetah Girls. And then as a grown adult, Sex in the City, those women and the way that they're each other's found family. So Sex in the City follows Carrie Bradshaw, who is a writer and who's into fashion. So she mostly writes about relationships and intimacy, but she's a fashionista who likes to go into debt for shoes. And her best friend is one of her best friends is Miranda, who is a lawyer, Charlotte, who is an art dealer, and Samantha, who is a publicist. And all these four women are in their 30s to early 40s trying to navigate their dating lives together. And regardless of what man comes through, they always find time to sit together and have lunch and talk and bitch and moan about their lives. And the way that they showed up for each other, like I remember Charlotte gave Carrie money. I remember Carrie was there when Miranda found out that Steve cheated on her, and the way Samantha held Carrie down after Big stood her up at the wedding. Like no matter the men in their lives, these four women have chose to stick together and to chose to be
Right.
each other's found family. And I think that's the kind of friendship I hope for too. Like just because we have husbands, just because we have kids, like we should still try be intentional to stay in each other's lives. Sex and the City taught me about being intentional because even though people have critiques about Carrie's friendship and stuff, she's still showing up to the brunch, right? She still managed to run to Miranda's house when Miranda needs her.
Right.
So it's just like friendships are definitely about being intentional and putting in effort. And I think watching those two pieces of media, whether it's the Cheetah Girls and learning about conflict or
Mhm.
Sets in the City and learning about being intentional, I think those two pieces of media like played a like huge role in what I hope and want for friendship in my real life.
Right. Right.
All of the examples that we've put forth is I feel like there is an expectation that friendships are what they are without all the work that is put into it sometimes, which I think kind of like transitions into the highs and lows of friendship. And you're talking about Esther Perel. White Woman Wednesday, woo! My White Woman Wednesday is Brene Brown. I love this woman. And she has this series on like brave leadership and courageous leadership, what courageousness means, and being like fully open and available for change. She has this book called The Gifts of Imperfection, which talks a little bit about imperfection, the expectations of perfection, which I think we can see sometimes in our friendship wants, our romantic relationship wants, all relationship stuff. But, perfection being like a tool to make people feel like they can never get to the end goal, can never like meet the criteria, which keeps people anxious and like bummed out about stuff not going the perfect way when it's like there's beauty right in front of you. And folks maybe get stressed about friendships and like how they should look on the outside and like if these like criteria are checked off, when it could be about how nowadays we might have trouble with keeping and beginning meaningful, intimate, and vulnerable friendships. With that belief that friendship should be easy, requires little effort, when it really is, you can't have any meaningful relationships without putting in meaningful work. That is a key to friendship, and a key to being like courageous and all that stuff is like knowing that you can fail, knowing that there can be uncomfortable moments and still continue forward, rather than like, I feel like one thing is like, oh, cut them off, and it's like, oh, wait, without any other stuff behind that. I mean, I'm someone who's been ran around in friendships, beat like a dog sometimes, but because I give folks chances upon chances, because I'm like, surely this can't be it. Is it naivete, or is it like genuine, like, okay,
Right.
maybe there's work to be done that can happen and like is reasonable, and then there ain't, so you're there like the fool. But moving forward past that, that's my soapbox about Brene Brown, courageous leadership, imperfection, and friendships. What do you think about the highs of friendship, Sarah? Or rather, I guess lows. I was thinking about like what I would put the like difficult, uncomfortable things. I was thinking about the growth as a high, but like the difficult part.
Yeah, you know what? Similar to people when we talk about like our romantic relationships and we talk about how maybe we're not being able to maintain successful romantic relationships. I think people don't have that same conversation with friendships. Like we talk about romantic relationships like, "Oh, I have daddy issues and that's why I have like these attachment issues and stuff." But like we don't think about in the ways our childhood trauma shows up in our friendships too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the lows is not knowing how to maintain strong, intimate relationships with people and maybe allowing a relationship to crumble because you don't understand that you have to put work. Because there is this idea with the media in particular that friendship should be easy and it should just be this natural connection and that natural connection just needs to be maintained throughout the years. But friendship does take work in the same way people are willing to go to therapy for their relationship or romantic relationships, or they're willing to like go above and beyond to maintain their romantic relationships. I feel like that same due diligence is not given to friendship because we definitely don't live in at least we live in America, right? So we live in a Western society that kind of push down our throat that we need to get a nuclear family and have like just a child and a husband, and that's the unit that we have to focus on. So as we get older, our friendships tend to fall from the wayside, and we don't give them the attention and the love and care and nurture that we deserve, that they deserve. So I think one of the lows for me in my early 20s, because I had like a really bad friendship breakup, I do think that person and even myself, I don't think we really recognize that friendship does take work. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you don't have a right to like cut people off and move on because you have a right to outgrow people and that's 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely disheartening to watch this person be willing to like drive to Brooklyn for a nigga, for a man, right? Watch them drive to Brooklyn for a man to save that relationship, but like then I get ghosted and told from a third party that we're toxic. And I'm like, okay, I watch you send spam texts to men because you needed closure, but this is how you treat someone who,
Oop.
girl, who's been
Oh,
there. And it's just like, oh,
has been there.
yeah.
And I oop.
Not the spam text.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you're
it's just
embarrassing the
like,
both of
oh, I
us.
guess one of my lows in
Ugh.
friendship is realizing that we live in a society that doesn't place a tremendous amount of value on friendship, especially as you get older. So it's if you haven't, I guess, shifted that mindset where you're like, okay, now I'm
Mm-hmm.
just focusing on the husband and kids. If you're not at that point yet and you're still
Mm-hmm.
trying to enjoy your friends, it's hard when those friends start to move on and shift their focus, you know? So that's my
Mm.
feeling. What about you, Sierra? Like lows, highs?
I similar to you, Sarah. Like the lows for late recently, I had to find out the same thing. Like not same situation, but similar issue. It's like you will hang out with all these people and you call these people. You always talk to these people, but when it comes to me, you don't give me any time. You don't give me any energy.
Mm.
And actually, it's funny. Further back, like high school, my senior year, I actually fell out with a girl that I was super close with. Like we were. It's funny. Like I used to call each other twins. Like that was like my girl. We were always around each other. Everybody always knew if I was with her, if she was somewhere, I was right there. If I was over here, she'd be over there. So we fell out because of somebody else who basically would call into was questioning my friendship because during the time I was crazy. I was heavily into like
Oh.
dance at the time. I was still very much a competitive
Yeah.
dancer and into theater. So my schedule, life, you literally had no time, and I'm on the team, so it's just like not only am I have competitions, we have a production that's going up in April. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things, and I remember. Right. And I remember telling them, like, just so you guys know, when you schedule things, I may not be able to go. Like, I made sure I communicated that. I did my part.
So you had to
And
prioritize your passion, and you're in high school too.
correct.
So mind you got
Right. I'm a
homework.
senior.
Yeah, there's a lot of crap
Yeah.
going on. But go off.
People get
Exactly.
college money for doing the shit that you were doing. So
Literally.
sorry,
And
I'm
it was like,
focusing.
right. But my thing is the girl that questioned
So
my
you had a
friendship
snake
was
in the group.
Oh yeah, and she came late. She wasn't even an OG in
That's
the group. She came
wild. Not
later.
a,
That's
Nobody even
annoying.
liked her.
That's
That's the
annoying.
not
funny
you,
thing.
not even the
She doesn't even
maid.
go here.
No, listen. A little side note about this chick. Nobody even liked her, and I was the one who convinced them to like, come on, just let her in. She might be cool.
Not
And
you
at
brought her
first she
into the
was.
group
Stop. This
and she
is
usurped you.
literally.
That's
I
crazy.
did.
Why are
did.
we
Mhm.
twins though? Because I would bring the sneakiest snakes up in my most loved friend groups,
Like
and then
what?
be like,
Like
"What
what's
happened?
going on?
Why is this
No,
all
literally.
uncomfortable now?"
Okay,
Okay,
so
so summertime comes. I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
Summertime comes, and I text my friend who I was close with. I'm like, hey, listen, get your girl. What's up with her? Why
Period.
is she tripping? And she was like, well, you actually do act kind of funny. When we plan things, you back out last minute, like
Ah.
all this stuff. I'm like, what? I said, where are the receipts? Like, please give me all the receipts. Should you just get quiet? Plot twist. The thing about me is that my social battery is about maybe this big.
Yeah.
Like, you get me for a good couple of hours, and once that thing runs down, I'm silent. Not because anybody did anything wrong, not because I'm mad, it's just, that's me. I gotta power down for a second. And I was wrong for powering down. And I said, you know what? If you would rather be friends with this chick, go ahead.
Let it
And
be.
so
And also,
they're
you
friends.
forgot though, you're a black woman. So you being silent and not chortling and chuckling and laughing and affirming.
Wait,
and
was this an
Mhm.
interracial relationship?
So the one I was close with, she's black, but the new girl was white. And
Ah,
so she was tap dancing for massa. Let me
listen,
tell you.
I can't.
Exactly. No,
We're ridiculous.
I'm
Yeah.
I
scared.
can't. We're funny.
And homegirl actually said the N word multiple
Ah!
times on camera because I have
Tap.
a video
Oh.
of it, but I'm gonna just
Oh,
leave
on
that
camera.
alone. Oh yeah, I have a
College
video.
admissions.
No,
Yeah, we were in the
that's
car
why.
together. Oh yeah, she works in the medical field, so I could easily send it to
Giving.
the people.
Giving.
But you know,
People,
but I'm like,
it be the meanest girls who become the nurses. They love
Right.
having power over people.
correct. And so I don't even know if they're friends anymore. But I'm like, you can have that. And clearly it didn't work out because I don't even think they talk anymore. So how is life going now that you stuck on that side?
Yeah.
You know. So it was a hard thing. It was very hard. It was very, very hard.
That's
And
the
it's
worst
funny.
part.
Yes, it's funny.
It's the
Somebody
new.
you guys met at my birthday
Yeah,
dinner.
see, I had a birthday dinner. It was great.
Actually-
Whoop, whoop.
Yes, it was
Woo!
fun.
Aquarius season.
One of my bestie that was there, she's the one who called it out. She called it.
Absolutely.
She was like, that's not your friend.
Mm.
And I'm like, I just met her, so I'm like, what you mean, girl?
That is so
Child,
funny that
to this day.
she would say that, like knowing
this day.
what, knowing more about her personality. If I'm thinking of
She's
the right
very
person,
quiet,
I'm
but-
like, exactly. Like with the quiet ones are the observant individuals.
She is.
So
And she peeped
she's
it.
like,
She goes, I can't stand her.
that's so Raven Vision. Like,
Yeah.
because friendships
anyway, yeah.
also are tested when we have like new circumstances, new people. You get to learn a little bit more about that person. Sometimes I feel I've seen that when a friend of mine starts being romantically involved with another person.
No, truly.
And it's like, why? Well, I didn't know about this part of you.
Yeah.
The part that like sees this
Right.
as second rate, like, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed now.
You start to
Okay.
feel like a placeholder. And that's how I'm feeling as I get older. And I'm trying to come to terms with that. Like, okay, you wanted a partner. You wanted a romantic man in your life. Because I have a lot of women friends, right? So they all heterosexual, they date men. And it's just like, kind of like, oh, so I was only a placeholder for until that person came in your life. And
Right.
because I had a friend who recently just got out of a relationship, and I thought that we would be hanging out more, because like I'm like, okay, you're free, you're single, and they're more
Right.
concerned about dating and finding that new
I was
person.
gonna say they're looking for the next one,
And
which is like,
it's
Right.
devastating.
you need some work.
But then
you need some work.
I realized, okay, so with friendships, there are certain characteristics or fatal flaws that we all have that if you want to be friends with this person, you're going to have to just get used to that fatal flaw, or you just gonna be friends with that person. So I realized one fatal flaw that this person has is that they are pretty male centered. Like at the end of the day, their goal is to get their husband. They're probably gonna have some kids, and that's who they want to centered in their lives. And am I okay with that? So that's something I have to come to terms with. And I say, what is my fatal flaw? I think my fatal flaw as a friend, maybe I can be a little I think I can be a little too blunt and
Sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
but I personally love it because it's like, okay, you're telling me how you really feel.
yeah,
So
that's good.
that is,
Yeah.
I like how you acknowledge that.
yeah.
But
It's like
it's
I
beautiful
say
honesty.
impatient. Yeah,
But sometimes it'd be like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think my bluntness has gotten me in trouble a lot.
oh my gosh, wait, are we gonna talk about it on the pod?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
Because we're trying to keep jobs.
That's
You know what I
funny.
mean? So we gotta keep.
It's
Yeah,
we are professional and employable.
yeah,
Everyone listening, should we take a break
That's
and then we
funny.
go into Indeed.com ad read?
yeah. For real, for real, for real. Nah, but like just
Sorry to interrupt
in
you.
the terms of my friendship.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have had moments when I maybe was a little too blunt, and I said what I remember. I was one time driving the car with my ex friend, right, the person who and she was talking about some guy,
Uh
and I was just like,
oh.
when you gonna realize that that person doesn't like want you? Like I was just basically like like I
Period.
I mean, but Sierra, you said someone who keeps it real with you tells you like it is. I mean, I think that was a
Listen.
blessing for your friend if she doesn't want to accept
no.
that blessing.
That's yeah. I said something around that. I either said that or some. It was a like a kind of like a monologue too. So it wasn't just one thing. But I was just kind of letting her know, like, yo, this dude is playing in your face. He's not the one.
Right.
But that
Right.
energy was reciprocated because she will also, if I was getting played in my face by a dude, she will also give me that same kind of energy and let me know. Um,
Mhm.
so but I also know that that hurt her feelings, and she let me. She would tell me like that was harsh. I'm like, my bad.
Mhm.
My bad, my bad,
It's
my
like
bad.
you don't
I know for a
recognize,
lot.
right? You don't recognize until you get that feedback of like,
Mhm.
oh, well,
Oh,
these
my
are the
bad.
ways that
My
I was
bad.
spoken to,
Yeah.
growing.
Mm.
And it's like, I think that ties into what you were saying before, like the childhood traumas
Yeah.
or the traumas of existing, not just childhood,
Yeah.
just everyone's
Mhm.
got it. Everyone's got something going on.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you don't realize how much that bleeds into your platonic relationships too.
Yeah.
You think
Mhm.
you only get vulnerable enough for that stuff to happen with your lover, with your
Your
partner, with your
partner,
whoever.
your man.
But
Mhm.
really, I mean, my thing, my stuff has a lot to do with avoidant attachment style. I mean,
Mm.
like the idea of like, okay, I couldn't trust my parents. Why would I trust anyone else?
Yeah.
Time to disappear.
Wow. Yeah.
Deuces. I
Mm.
mean,
Deuces.
Frankie is the kind of person that she would dip on you for a couple weeks. You gotta be like, are you alive? Are you okay? What's going on?
And I so am. And when I come back, when we
Mhm.
gather or intersect again, I'm like, oh, pick
Mhm.
up where we left off. Meanwhile, you're like,
Bitch, are you
were
good?
dead. And I'm like, I was on Sims
But I think that's definitely
and
one of,
depressed.
yeah, that's one of your fatal flaws. Was like
Mm.
once I
Yes.
realized, because as being friends with you, was like, oh no, what? She's just going through something. Just check in, make sure she's good, but then like leave her
Mhm.
alone. And when she come back, she come
Mhm.
back. And
Aw,
that's something I
I
had
feel
to
seen.
learn and like accept, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah. What about you, Sierra?
Right.
Like, what's the fatal flaw that like one of your friends had that you had to accept, and what's like your fatal flaw as a friend?
um, I think I'm just gonna call you and Frankie mom and dad, or mom and mom, because I think I got traits from both of you.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sitting here and I'm
Like
like,
mother, like.
oh, like, you know what? It depends on the group, the friend
Yeah,
group.
it's very true.
With some
Yeah.
groups, I'm more of the hey, what y'all doing? Somebody must be like
Yeah,
that's like a kind of friend, or like why come on now, like you about 2 hours late, what you doing? Like that. Or on the other hand, or sometimes in both groups, I'm the one that's like, I shut down. Like when I get overwhelmed, sis, I put myself in a bubble and I'm like, don't talk to me for another week. I need to process what just happened. And similar to like Frankie, it's like, for me, I know it's like, it's nothing personal towards anybody else. It's just, okay, I need to just process this real quick and figure out, okay,
I feel that.
What can I do coming back into the situation? How can I deal with this the right way? And then when I come back, like you said, you come back and like, hey, after being gone for like 3 months.
Yes.
Like,
what's that one meme? Hi everybody. Like, there's a meme that's so funny.
Yes.
Like what? Like, hey, how y'all doing? Yeah, like that is.
Wait,
me.
I'm also thinking of the Melania. They're talking, and then she's like, "Hello,
hello,
Melania. Do you have something to say?"
Right, and that's one thing. Like so one thing like my therapist says. She goes, the fact that you can point these things out in yourself is a good sign that you're willing to work at them. You know, like if you say I'm a perfect friend, I don't do anything wrong, and it's like
we all have to grow.
I bet you do. Right. So I definitely recognize these traits. I'm definitely more of a shutdown more than a like. I usually sometimes I think I get it, honestly, all jokes aside, I get it from my mom. Like when her and my dad were still married, if something happened, she wouldn't say anything. She'd just kind of be like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll internalize this, and then I'm going to blow up about it later. And I catch myself doing that, and I'm like, oh, boy. And
both my parental units. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I definitely can identify with that whole, like, okay, I'll just come back to that, and I'm going to disassociate. I'll be on Roblox. Don't bother me. Goodbye. Yes. Like, that is me. So
what's a friendship fatal flaw that you have to get used to from your own friends? Like what's one that's like, ooh, that hurts me, but I love this bitch, so I'm gonna let it go.
So I do have a friend that is more conservative. Okay. I've known her for a very long
like politics, or just like
should I mute myself?
Politics are just
like we voted, we all voted, is what I'll say.
Oh yeah, I would say in general.
Wait, in general, like, did they vote for Donald?
No. The first time they wanted to, but they weren't old enough. Or no, they did. The first time they did, but not the.
Now, Sierra.
Not the second.
Now I got another question. Okay. Now
you know where we grew up. You know where we grew up.
But I have a question. Okay. What values matter to you that you feel like your friends also have to have? Because I understand we live in divisive times, right? And particularly in the white community. They seem to be okay with marrying Republicans and marrying misogynists and marrying homophobes. Like they're okay with that shit. And then they like the women themselves. Like I noticed this phenomenon with a lot with white women. It's like they're like, well, I believe in like trans rights and I support Black Lives Matter. This is actually this one girl on Love Is Blind. She was talking about Black Lives Matter, and then she was talking to a guy who didn't know about George Floyd. Mind you, they're both in Minneapolis. So I'm like, oh, buddy, Lord. That was where were you? Where were you at? Where were you at? But she chose him after pause, and they're getting married at least on this season, right? So I'm just like,
what is going on? Yeah, what matters? Is it
when I hear people
horizontal stuff or what?
So Jesus. When I hear people say they're friends, like you have deep, intimate relationships with a person who may not have the same values as you, like how do you have those kind of friendships?
So
like inside you, deep relationships. Sorry, continue.
Oh no, it's okay. Well, that's romantically, but on friendships too.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the romantics. My bad.
Unless your friends like to do that too.
Yeah, the voice break.
No. Okay.
No. So let's see. So we go way, way back, and I'm talking like kindergarten days. Like, so I will say that when I first, so this is the funny thing. She didn't tell me this right away. We've been friends since kindergarten, and I think for her, I think the reason why she associates, I'm sorry, so her parents are Trumpies. They always have been.
Okay.
That's how they are. So I think a lot of her thing is what they align with, she aligns with.
Yeah.
We did vacation Bible school together. Like, we did a lot of those things, but I didn't notice those little, like, subtle digs they would take at certain communities. I was, like, also, like, 10 and 11. So, like, I didn't really know, like, oh, this is kind of... I felt it, but I'm like, I don't know what it is about what you're saying that I don't like.
Yeah.
And so as we got older and I reconnected
the
with
little
her after
dog
high
whistles.
school,
Yeah. That's crazy.
like, excuse you? So after
Not
we
excuse you.
reconnected, right, like, we reconnected after high school and we met for like lunch. And she straight up says to me, she was like, this is right after Trump won the first time. She was like, so, she was, I have to be honest with you. And I'm like, okay, what's up? She's
I'm
like,
scared.
I voted for Trump. And I was like, why? And her explanation was very scripted. It was very much like, basically, I feel this way, and I'm like, and her reasonings just didn't make any sense. And it was very much like the propaganda of like, well, the Mexicans are gonna do this to us and all this stuff, and I'm just listening to her and I'm just like, girl,
Are you
like,
okay?
yeah, I'm like, are you good? And it was
so
very,
you
like,
came all this way because you wanted my approval, my acceptance,
right,
my
and
forgiveness.
she like came to me,
because
right,
it is.
she came to me like a little kid, like, hey mom, like, it was
Yeah,
very
she
much,
wanted to prove that she's still a good person.
right,
Sierra still loves me.
Yeah, and so I said, girl, she goes, you're not gonna cut me off though, right? And I said, here's the thing, and I explained it. I said, if somebody, just as just an example, I said, if somebody murdered your mom, right? And I said, and I know this person to be good for other things, but this one thing affected you, it affected your dad, it affected your brother, it affected everybody in your family. And I still said, not guilty, how would you feel? Seriously, I said, make it personal. I said, this person has gone after your people, your family, people that you care about. And I said, or maybe even your neighbor that always bakes you cookies and all of a sudden they're not there anymore to bake you cookies. Like, all these things. I said, how would you feel? And not only that, but they get the rights to everything that your mom had. So your mom had these rights to do these things, so now it all belongs to him. How would you feel? And she was just kind of like I could see the wheels turning, like, oh, okay. And I said, I'm going to say this to you. I'm super disappointed. I said, I think we've been friends for so long that you would know how damaging your decision was to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And being that fast forward, she lost both of her grandparents during COVID due to negligence.
Yeah.
It's like, so do you see it yet, or are you still? So now fast forward, he wins and her family can't stand him, but they're still very much Republican, conservative. Like, we still have our values, but we hate that guy. So it's just like, I still talk to her, but I will say after that, I definitely didn't speak to her for a long time. I was very much like, and then I found out her grandparents passed away, and I'm like, I don't like to be like, like, you know what I mean?
No,
so
of course. No, I don't think you can with that, because it's death is permanent. So I'm like, of course you want to be like a little.
I'm crazy, so I'm kind of like,
Well, anyway. I mean, listen, I think I said in my solo episode, sometimes we gotta bring back dancing on people's graves. You know what I mean? But like,
you know what?
We gotta bring it back. However, I understand
the tap block out.
Why you probably, when her grandparents passed away, you probably came back around like, hey, are you okay? Are you good? Because that's a huge loss.
Did. Right, because the thing about it is her grandparents hated Trump. They were not Trumpies at all. They were the opposite. They said they wanted Obama back in office.
Generationally?
I know. That's what I'm like. What happened? Where's the disconnect? But they were like, Obama this, Biden that. They were like, do not let this man in office. And unfortunately, and they don't even like Hillary. They didn't want Hillary, but I mean, nobody wanted her. But anyway, I did.
I did vote for Hillary. I ain't mad about it. She was the most qualified in my opinion, but okay.
But I know, right? I hear you. But I was like, ooh. But so they were very, very, very liberal. Like, they were like, nah, we ain't checking for this man. So when they, and I had great conversations with her grandmother all the time. That woman was a sassy woman. So I I felt for her in that aspect, but I kind of was like, girl, like, do you see it yet, or are you still kind of like, but he's so great? It's like, is he really?
So with that conflict in that friendship, you decided to take space.
I had to.
Now,
I
if
really
her
did.
grandparents didn't pass away, do you think you would have gone back to being friends with her?
Ooh, I don't know. I think about that a lot. I'm like, would I have been there? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know, because even to this day, I don't really talk to her still, because there are still some things that she says, and I'm just like, look, dude, I can't get with this. Like,
No, for real. It's like
it's just
that's
it's hard.
friendships low. One of friendships lows is sometimes accepting the relationship, accepting the fact that you've lived lives and grown up together, and then also being
Right.
like, well, now I have to take
Yeah.
space, not just physically but emotionally too. Like, you don't get access to me in these same ways, because how
Right.
could I be vulnerable with you, who says, like, you know, the
Racism
most
or
vulnerable
problematic
people in
things,
the
yeah.
world should
Right.
die.
Right.
Now,
I mean,
Right.
that's just kind of
is
the
that a
underlying
friendship though?
thing.
Is that like, and that's something I think that's we gotta ask ourselves, like, what is friendship for, and what is friendship? If we're
Mhm.
not, if this person you're taking space away from, right, and you don't really
Mhm.
like their values, are they really your friend, or they're someone you're just courteous to?
Right. No, that's so true. I think for me, we went from, I'll say from like senior year and back, I say we were friends.
Yeah.
Like, this was legit, because this is before we really were into, both of us were really into politics. We were still young. We didn't think any of this stuff would ever affect us. And then
Yeah.
we turned 18, and then it's like, oh, that's
Mm,
the side.
things change. It gets real.
Yeah.
We turned 18, and it's like, that's the side you're standing on. That's where you, oh, okay.
That's the
So
line you
even,
draw. Yeah.
yeah. So even now, it's like, I'll see her. She'll text me sometimes and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good." But I think we're at the point, Sarah, honestly, like, we are probably more colleagues, or like, I
I feel
can't
that.
say, you know what I mean?
Like,
Because even
maybe
like,
you respect the history that you used to have, so that's why you don't
yes,
mind
and
engaging
I
in a
grieve it.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel that. I
I
really
agree. You know
do.
what I mean? Like, you were this
There's a
person, and
grieving.
now, yeah, now you're
Mm.
like, oh my, now you're like this, and like, yeah, I definitely, yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. Like, I look at everything we went through, and then now fast forward to now we're functioning adults, and you say these things, and I see the things you've posted, and I'm just like, but you were
Oh,
friends with me? Like, you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, you're talking about my brother, you're talking about my dad, you're talking about, you know what I mean? You're talking about different people in my life who are connected to these communities, and you're talking about me. Like, you know what I mean? You're talking about a
Yeah.
lot of my friends that I
Yeah.
care about. So it's just, I really had to go. And I mean, and to this day, her mom asks, like, "Oh, have you talked to Sierra?" Like, I saw her mom recently, and she was giving me a hug, and I'm just like, and they voted for
Mm-hmm.
Trump, and I'm just like,
Right? It's like, okay, so it
what?
is something that you vote for that should happen to everyone else except you and your, like, communities.
Right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wait a second.
I just,
So
And there's such a
yeah,
grief in outgrowing too. I
yeah,
think that's
outgrowing a
one of
friend
the
is hard. Yeah.
things
Or
that
being
oh my
has.
outgrown is
gosh,
hard. Like, I have friends
yeah.
who outgrew me, and I
Mm-hmm.
like, it was sad. One of my friends in high school, she went to a separate college in a different state, and
Uh huh.
I was still texting her going to community college. I'm still texting her about like old people that we see because I'm in community college with them, and it felt like she kind of put a distance between us, and then like she stopped texting me and talking to me, and looking back, it was like, oh, she outgrew me. Like,
Right.
I was in a different mental space than she was,
I feel
and
that.
she
Right.
couldn't, like, and maybe I was in a very, because I feel like maybe she's a little more mature than me, or we just don't have similar interests, right? And so maybe
That's deep.
that's what she sensed, and that's why she moved on. But it was like, and we're
Mm-hmm.
still friends on social media, and
Mm-hmm.
I wish her well. She's a smart person, sweetheart. But it was like really kind of like disheartening to realize that like, oh, you have to leave me behind.
That's deep. Wow, that's deep.
And sometimes it's for now.
Yeah.
But I think there's
Right.
something that you've put in our episode notes that you've put in, which is like this concept of like our society isn't built for like the long term, whether that is sustainability in our market and economy, whether it's, you know, the products that come out of our country and the ability for it to like stay. Not only do we have the physical short-term solutions, we also have a lot of emotional short-term solutions.
Yeah.
And sometimes those short-term solutions look like not attempting the difficult conversations and just cutting folks off, or being like, this is natural to grow apart in this way because of proximity, so no one should need to grieve this or feel some type of way about this, when it really is like, hello. But yeah, definitely being in different places.
So how do we maintain friendships? Like how now? So now we're adults, right? We're all 25 and plus, and we're trying to. I know we're old.
It's twisted.
It's weird. Right? In a capitalist society, like how do we maintain our friendships? How do we nurture the people that we want to continue in our lives, especially as old as we're gonna get older, and maybe some of us are gonna get married, and we're gonna have children, and we may not live in the same state, you know, we may not live in the same country. Like our lives are going to evolve and change so much. So how do we maintain not just relationships with each other, but just relationships, our friendships that we value in general, you know?
That is a great question.
Yeah,
a big one.
That's
a big question.
Now I'm like really thinking, like, I think one of the things, which one you did? Oh, Sarah, you said it. It was about realizing that some people outgrow you, like they're in a different place or they move on, and it's nothing personal. It's just that's just how life has carried them. So I think being able to, in order to maintain a friendship, I think is also, I feel like communication. I think that's such a huge thing in any type of relationship, but specifically a friendship. It's like, hey, you know what? Like, I think the bluntness is great. You know, that's communication. Yeah, okay, maybe the delivery sometimes is like, but at least you're communicating, hey, listen, this ain't gonna work. We need to figure this out. Like, no, you need to cut it out or something like that. I think that's important. Sometimes you need that friend that's gonna be like, hey, come on. And then and when you do that, being able to listen and understand why the other friend might say, hey, you know what, the way you said that, I was feeling some type of way.
Yeah.
And like, oh, you know what, my bad, let me check myself. I believe like that mutual, like that understanding, I think is so important in how you can maintain a friendship. Because I feel like if you don't listen to each other, what's the point? You know, it's like a waste of time.
So communication, listening. I think you also touched on I think this whole time we have touched on effort, right?
Yeah.
Like, friendship takes effort. It takes us putting in the work. It takes constantly ensuring that you're reaching out to the people that you claim to love. Like, don't tell me you love me and not say hi, hello. Something I have to remind myself. Like, saying that I love this person, I'm saying that I care about this person, so I need to check in on them.
Right.
So effort. What
I
about
like
you,
that.
Frankie?
I think expectation is very real. In the sense that, you know, I have expectations for myself and others as we navigate the world, like just humans. I also have expectations for my friends that I don't think are not set in stone, but just like expectations of how I think a friendship should be, like being in contact with each other at a regular rate, understanding each other's communication styles, not just looking at one form of communication and seeing that as like the way, which more often than not is like based off of what a group of white dudes in a room says is the right way. So like, you know, just acknowledging that part or those parts of each other, and then also being clear with those expectations and boundaries. Like, there is nothing worse than feeling like a line has been consistently crossed. And then you've never really set the expectation that you are like, oh, that's a no. And then it turns into this feeling of resentment and like, you don't respect me, but how are you supposed to even get to that conversation of feeling disrespected as a person? Because you didn't give the groundwork of like, yeah, no, I'm not really cool with like those racial jokes.
That's true.
Actually, no, I'm not really cool with you constantly like going into some sort of black scent, and because I'm your black friend and you're a gay white man, and that's just what happened. Like, no, actually, no, I'm not comfortable with that. But then how many times does that happen? I'm not saying this from personal experience or anything.
No, it isn't like you're just pulling these examples out of the woodwork.
Just pulling these examples out of, you know. But like, yeah, it like, how are you supposed to be like, this is racism and I'm getting pissed off and you're not like being respectful to me? How do we get there when we haven't even gotten to, oh, okay, cut that out. And I'm willing to say this difficult thing that may be like a social like stressor for a sec, because, you know, that's my expectations. Like, I should be feeling safe, that I'm not feeling made fun of or characterized or something in my day-to-days. Like, I should be feeling, I don't know, safe. And I guess that there's an expectation of safety in my friendships as well. So sharing expectations.
Sharing your expectations, setting boundaries with each other, communication, effort, and then maybe like just overall giving grace, right? Because as our lives change, what we can give at a certain moment changes. I think one thing, like, my parents always talk about is marriage, right? Like, some days someone's giving 50, other days someone's giving 70. Like, there's not always going to be like a balance. And I do think that should be true for friendships too. Sometimes you're giving a little more because you know that person is in a space where they can't give anymore at the moment, right? So it's just like, I think we do got to understand, we have to have grace for our friends, that as our lives get more complicated, as we get older, as we experience more hardships, sometimes our friends will not be able to show up in the ways that we need them, not because they don't want to, but just simply because they can't. Like, they don't have the range to in that moment. So I think grace is like another way, learning how to give grace is another way we learn how to maintain and nourish our relationships and our friendships. You know, I do want to end this on like a cute little note. So I don't know if y'all know about my girl Demi Lovato. Okay?
Of course.
Demi Lovato.
Give your heart a break.
Listen, give your heart a break. But she also used, on Disney, she sung this song called "A Gift Is a Friend," and I just want to end with one of my favorite parts of the song, one of my favorite lyrics. So like, just to let you know, the world comes to life and everything's bright from beginning to end when you have a friend by your side that helps you find the beauty you are when you open your heart and believe in the gift of a friend.
Aww.
Okay? So that's the note we're gonna leave on. And I can't wait to talk to you guys next time, because we're gonna have a questions game based off the game Where Do We Begin? Where Should We Begin? Which is by Esther Perel. So I'm excited to talk to you guys, but I'm gonna let y'all go. Bye, Cece. Bye, Frankie.
See ya.
Pip, pip.
Bye.
Peace out.
Peace out. Thank you for listening to the Sunkissed Pod.
You can find the Sunkissed Pod on Spotify and Apple.
And you can join us on Instagram at the Sunkissed Pod to stay up to date on the girls and the ladies.
Ta-ta.